Hey everyone, Glenn Walker here with Western B.A.S.S. And today we're going to talk about the situations in which I use fluorocarbon and the situations in which I use braided line. I use braided line primarily when I'm fishing extremely heavy cover, such as matted vegetation, if I'm flipping mats, or if I'm up shallow flipping like buckbrush. Situations in which the water clarity isn't that good and the cover is really dense, and I need to make sure I get a solid hook set on it. So primarily when I'm fishing braided line, I'm going to be fishing with Seaguar Smackdown braid. I'll start off, Smackdown braid. It will for sure get spooled on my casting reels when I'm fishing a snake-proof frog, lily pads, matted vegetation, duckwork. I go to the 65-pound test there because that way I can make a long cast, and when I get a bite back in that heavy stuff, I can set the hook, I get an instant hook set, and that bass is going to get in the boat. I'll also use the 65-pound test if I'm punching those mats as a follow-up presentation to a blow-up, or if that's my pattern for the day is punching mats. The 65-pound test, it's kind of a key piece of any heavy cover fishing arsenal. If I'm making casts with like a swim jig around lily pads or eelgrass on the Mississippi River, I'll use the 40-pound test. The 40-pound test is a real easy casting line. There's no stretch to it. It's going to come through that vegetation. At the same time, it's not as big a diameter and thick as a 65-pound test. So that's when I'll use the 40. The 15-pound test is sometimes I'll use on my spinning reel. So I'll spool my main line with the 15-pound test smackdown, and then I'll connect that to a fluorocarbon leader. So that's kind of those scenarios in which I use braided line. I'll use fluorocarbon line anytime that water is clear, and if I would have used braided line, it would spook those fish. So, flipping, I'll use the 20-pound Seaguar Tatsu. Anytime I'm flipping around boat docks, laydowns, riprap, if I'm making pitches to a weed edge and not directly into the weeds, the 20-pound fluorocarbon is a great line because it can get a good hook set. There's no stretch in it. It's very abrasion resistant, so it's going to get those bass in the boat. Kind of my key main go-to line is that 15-pound fluorocarbon. Here I got the Seaguar Tatsu. It's a real easy casting line. Again, no stretch and high abrasion resistant. So when you get a hook bite, you can get a good hook set on that fish. And if you're fishing around, cover, which that's where the fish are living, your line's not going to get nicked up a lot. And then if I'm fishing a spinning reel a lot and that water is really clear, I'll spool it up with the whole spool with fluorocarbon. Here I got the 8-pound Tatsu. Sometimes I'll use the 10-pound if I can get away with it. So those are kind of the scenarios in which I use fluorocarbon line and braided line. So when you're looking to spool up your reels here, really think about what scenarios you're going to be fishing in, and if you should be spooling up with fluorocarbon or braided line.